In episode 5, we showed you how Iran erased $4.2 billion of American air power in 8 minutes. That was the opening act. Because destroying aircraft on a parking apron, as catastrophic as it was, still leaves runways intact. And as long as runways are intact, replacement aircraft can land. Reinforcements can arrive. The base can be reconstituted. American air power can return to the theater within days, not months. Iran understood this. And 12 hours after the last fire at Al Udeid was extinguished, Iran came back. Not with hypersonic missiles aimed at aircraft, not with Shahed drone swarms targeting radar installations. This time, Iran sent a strike package engineered with one single surgical purpose: to make Al Udeid's runways physically unusable for the longest possible time, at the lowest possible cost, in the shortest possible window. 12 minutes, 5 runways. Every concrete surface capable of launching or recovering a fixed-wing aircraft at the most important American air base in the Middle East, destroyed, cratered, seeded with delayed fuse munitions, and rendered impassable to anything with wings. The United States Air Force Central Command is now operating without a home base. Every air operation across the Middle East theater, close air support, strategic bombing, intelligence surveillance, aerial refueling, medevac, has been grounded or rerouted to bases operating at overcapacity thousands of kilometers away. This is not a hardware problem. Hardware can be replaced. This is a geometry problem. And geometry is far harder to fix than steel. Welcome to Geopolitics Meets Money. Let's break down exactly how Iran did it, because the engineering of what happened tonight is unlike anything in the history of modern air warfare. Most people assume destroying a runway is simple. Drop enough bombs on concrete and it becomes unusable. That assumption is wrong. And Iran's strike planners knew it. Runways are extraordinarily resilient structures. Al Udeid's primary runways are built to U.S. military specification, 45 centimeters of reinforced concrete over a compacted aggregate base, engineered specifically to withstand the stress of fully loaded heavy bombers operating in sustained high-tempo conditions. A standard high-explosive warhead detonating on the surface of a runway like this creates a crater, but a crater that a team of engineers with rapid airfield damage repair equipment can fill, compact, and resurface to minimum operational standard in as little as 2 to 4 hours. 2 to 4 hours. That is the standard NATO rapid airfield repair timeline. It means a single bomb on a runway is a temporary inconvenience, not a strategic denial. Iran's engineers studied this problem for years, and tonight they demonstrated a solution so precise and so methodical that Western airfield denial doctrine will need to be rewritten from scratch. The strike package that hit Al Udeid's runway complex used 3 distinct munition types deployed in a specific sequence, each one designed to defeat a different layer of the rapid repair capability that American engineers would deploy the moment the attack ended. First came the penetrating cratering munitions. Iran's Qatar 110 runway-busting warheads, modeled on the Soviet-era RBK-500 PTAB design but with an Iranian-developed delayed fuse penetrator, do not detonate on the runway surface. They punch through the concrete, travel 60 to 80 centimeters into the substrate layer beneath, and then detonate. The underground detonation fractures the concrete from below, collapsing a section of runway surface inward rather than throwing debris outward. The resulting crater is not a hole in a surface. It is a structural failure of the entire pavement section, requiring complete excavation and reconstruction rather than simple filling. Repair time, 72 hours, minimum per crater under ideal conditions with full equipment. Iran created 47 such craters across 5 runway surfaces in 12 minutes. But cratering alone, even 47 craters, would not be enough to keep Al Udeid grounded for longer than 72 hours. American military engineering units are extraordinarily capable. Given enough time, enough equipment, and enough personnel, they can rebuild a runway from rubble. Iran's second munition type was designed specifically to deny them that time. Following the cratering salvo by approximately 90 seconds, precisely timed to arrive as the first dust clouds from crater detonations were still rising, Iran fired a second wave of munitions, delivering what military engineers call a submunition denial field. These are small, independently armed bomblets, each roughly the size of a soda can, that disperse across the runway surface on impact and do not immediately detonate. They sit, they wait. Some are programmed to detonate on contact with vibration, triggered by the weight of a repair vehicle driving across the runway. Some are programmed with random time delay fuses set between 6 and 72 hours. Some are designed to resist magnetic sweep clearance by incorporating non-metallic casings that defeat conventional mine detection equipment. The effect is devastating in its simplicity. American explosive ordnance disposal teams cannot send repair crews onto a runway seeded with a denial field. Every square meter of affected runway surface must first be individually cleared by EOD specialists working on foot, a process that takes not hours, but days per runway section. Iran seeded approximately 340 submunitions across Al Udeid's 5 runway surfaces, at an optimistic EOD clearance rate, assuming no detonations, no casualties, full equipment availability. Clearing all 5 runways to a standard safe for repair crews to begin work takes a minimum of 11 days. 11 days of zero fixed-wing operations from Al Udeid. 11 days during which every American air mission in the Middle East theater must be rerouted, reduced, canceled, or flown from bases at the outer edge of operational range. Iran spent an estimated $8 million on the munitions that achieved this. The operational cost to the United States of 11 days of grounded Al Udeid operations, rerouting, fuel overconsumption, delayed missions, carrier strike group repositioning, exceeds $2.3 billion by Pentagon logistics accounting. 400 to 1. That is Iran's return on investment tonight. Here is the detail that has not appeared in a single Western news report published in the hours since the strike. And it is the most strategically significant element of the entire attack. Iran's third munition type was not aimed at the runways at all. It was aimed at the rapid airfield damage repair equipment depots. Al Udeid maintains dedicated radar equipment, the specialized machinery required to excavate craters, compact fill material, and resurface runway sections to minimum operational standard. This equipment is stored in hardened depots adjacent to the runway complex. Heavy excavators, concrete batch plants, compaction rollers, airfield matting systems. Without this equipment, even a cleared runway cannot be repaired. The craters remain impassable regardless of how many EOD teams clear the submunition field. Iran's targeting database, built by the same IRGC intelligence cell that Israeli forces partially destroyed in Episode 4, had identified the precise GPS coordinates of Al Udeid's 3 radar equipment depots. In the final 90 seconds of the 12-minute strike window, 8 K-bar Shekan ballistic missiles impacted those 3 depots directly. Every piece of heavy runway repair equipment at Al Udeid was destroyed. American engineers can clear the submunition field in 11 days. But without excavators, concrete plants, and compaction equipment, they cannot repair a single crater after the field is cleared. Replacement radar equipment must now be airlifted from pre-positioned stocks in Germany and South Korea, a logistics chain requiring a minimum of 16 days to complete. Iran did not ground Al Udeid for 11 days. It grounded Al Udeid for 16 days minimum, possibly 22, by destroying the tools needed to repair the damage after the denial field is cleared. 3 munition types. 3 sequential problems, each one defeating the solution to the previous one. This is not improvised military planning. This is systems engineering applied to airfield denial. But the military consequences of tonight's strike are only half the story. Because Al Udeid Air Base is not located in a vacuum. It is located in Qatar. And what Iran just did to American infrastructure on Qatari soil has placed Doha in the most diplomatically untenable position of any Gulf state since the 1990 Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. Qatar hosts Al Udeid under a bilateral defense agreement with the United States. That agreement makes Qatar, in the eyes of Iranian strategic doctrine, a co-belligerent in any conflict involving American forces operating from its territory. Iran's foreign ministry made this explicit in a statement released 40 minutes after the strike, warning Qatar that continued hosting of American military operations constitutes active participation in aggression against the Iranian nation. Qatar's government faces a choice with no good options. It can ask the United States to temporarily suspend operations from Al Udeid, protecting itself from further Iranian strikes at the cost of catastrophically damaging its relationship with Washington and every NATO ally that depends on Al Udeid for regional operations. Or it can maintain the defense agreement, accept the targeting designation Iran has just publicly assigned it, and prepare for the possibility that the next Iranian strike hits not a runway, but Doha's civilian infrastructure. Qatar is also the world's largest exporter of liquefied natural gas, supplying approximately 22% of global LNG supply. Europe, which spent the last 3 years diversifying away from Russian energy toward Qatari LNG following the Ukraine invasion, is now watching its primary alternative gas supplier get squeezed between Iranian missile strikes and an impossible diplomatic ultimatum. European natural gas futures rose 44% overnight. Germany's energy regulator quietly activated its gas emergency protocol, the same mechanism deployed during the worst weeks of the Russia-Ukraine energy crisis. As a precautionary measure, the financial consequences of grounding all U.S. air operations in Qatar arrived in markets before most traders had finished reading the damage assessment. Defense contractor stocks split immediately along capability lines. Boeing, manufacturer of both the destroyed KC-46A tankers from Episode 5 and the radar equipment components now being emergency airlifted from European stockpiles, rose 6.7%. General Dynamics, whose engineering and logistics subsidiaries hold the primary contract for U.S. military airfield reconstruction operations globally, surged 11.2%, had opened on the expectation of an emergency no-bid reconstruction contract worth an estimated $800 million. The Pentagon's supplemental budget request, already at $7.8 billion following Episode 5's hardware losses, was revised upward to $11.4 billion within hours of the damage assessment reaching Congress, incorporating airfield reconstruction costs, radar equipment replacement, extended carrier strike group operational expenses during the Al Udeid grounding period, and accelerated procurement of the ground-based air defense hypersonic intercept systems that failed to stop Iran's Fatah II strikes across both episodes. Brent crude held above $180 per barrel for the first time since the 2008 financial crisis, driven not by actual supply disruption, but by the market's rational calculation that a conflict capable of grounding the entire U.S. air presence in Qatar is a conflict capable of closing the Strait of Hormuz entirely. The fear premium in oil futures is now larger than the actual supply disruption. And fear premiums, once embedded in commodity markets, do not retreat until the underlying conflict is resolved. Not paused, not de-escalated, but resolved. That resolution is not visible from where we stand tonight. Here is the strategic reality that Geopolitics Meets Money wants every viewer to sit with after 6 episodes of this series. Iran has not won a single conventional military engagement in this conflict. It has not destroyed an Israeli division, sunk an American carrier, or captured a single meter of territory. By every traditional military metric, Iran is losing. And yet, Iran has shut down Israel's largest airport. It has eliminated 35% of Israel's drinking water supply. It has destroyed $4.2 billion in American air power. And tonight, it has grounded every U.S. fixed-wing aircraft in the Middle East theater for a minimum of 16 days, at a total munitions cost of less than $30 million across both strikes. Iran is not fighting a military war. Iran is fighting a financial war, an engineering war, a logistics war. It is targeting not armies, but the infrastructure that armies depend on: runways, water, power, radar, repair equipment. And it is doing so at a cost ratio so asymmetric that the United States is spending $40 in response costs for every dollar Iran spends on munitions. This is the war that economics textbooks do not model. This is the war that Pentagon procurement cycles were never designed to fight. And this is the war that Geopolitics Meets Money exists to explain, because understanding it requires not just a military analyst, but a financial one. So here's the question for the GMM community tonight. Is Iran's asymmetric cost strategy, $30 million in munitions, generating $6 billion in American response costs across 6 episodes, the most financially sophisticated military campaign ever conducted by a non-superpower? Or does the United States have a response coming that resets this entire equation overnight? The B-2s that departed Whiteman Air Force Base in Episode 5 have not yet appeared in this story. They will. Drop your thoughts below. And in Episode 7, we go to the number that ends this series one way or another. What happens to the global economy the morning after America decides it is done absorbing these strikes and responds with everything it has? This is Geopolitics Meets Money. Stay sharp.